Hello and welcome to The Free Bin, a podcast of the Toledo, Oregon Public Library. My name is Sophia.
I'm Harrison.
And I'm Cindy.
And we're here to talk about Autism Acceptance Month.
That's right.
Yes,
Yeah.
and also...
I'm going to cry.
This is
We're in denial.
This is Sophia's last episode as a host of the show. Hopefully not last episode as a guest of the show.
That's right.
Exactly. I can come back and tell you about all my experiences at my new job.
Yes.
That's
So-
right.
So we're very happy for Sophia, onward and upward.
Right.
And we are terrified and sad.
Yes. And all the things. So she'll be here through the 30th. So
Yep.
come by and say hi and bye. And why are you leaving? But
How
it's
could you?
It's okay. But we have been very, very lucky to have Sophia in the
Yes.
job for the last 9 months. And she has,
Almost 10 months.
Almost
It's only
10
a couple
months,
days
that's right.
short of 10 months.
yeah. But we know that sometimes life takes you in a different direction. And we are okay with that.
Congratulations are in order.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we wish her well.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Doing over there? Something's happening on the soundboard.
I forgot to turn it up.
Now it's ready.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, I forgot a brochure so that I could talk to you about all the cool things that I planned for May,
Okay.
even though I won't be here.
All right.
What's the number for 911?
Okay.
Okay. So pause.
Pause.
And we're back.
I'm back with breaking news. If I can. Okay, breaking news. So I'm going to do a speed run of all the cool things that we're doing in May. Are you ready?
Ready.
Ready.
Okay. So we're having an adult cross-stitch event on May 16th starting at 2 p.m. This is a redo of an event where we didn't get the right cross-stitch kits, but now we got them, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be great, and we're going to try again. Make sure you sign up in the library for that. And then we're doing a passive program, Spice Club, where you can come to the front desk, take a packet of adobo, gluten-free adobo, and try it at home. Let us know what you think.
Nice.
If you like it, we have our normal knit and stitch on the first and third Tuesday of every month from 12 to 2 p.m. So in May, that's May 5th and May 19th. And then on May 9th, we have two concurrent programs running together. So we have the garden swap, where you bring your unused garden supplies and you swap them out for what you need. We'll also have seedlings available and free popcorn and free Italian sodas.
And the kids can come and pot things.
Yep. Yes. And at the same time, we're having a planting party for kids and teens, so you can plant your own pollinator garden as part of the garden swap event. So pots, soil, and seeds will be available for you to plant your own pollinator-friendly plants. So we have milkweed seeds and lavender seeds to bring the butterflies and the bees, because pollinators are important.
Yes.
And then Tiny Art is running until you have until May 5th to grab your kit and turn it in, because we're having People's Choice voting all month long for that. And then the winner will be announced in June. Lego Club is every Wednesday. We have a Lego hour, so come build with us every Wednesday from 3:30 to 4:30. And lastly, at the end of the month, it's Theme Saturday, we're trying the ancient art of sumitagashi, which is like marbling with ink and water. Use floating ink, water, and paper to make art. So all ages are welcome. Again, that's May 30th, starting at 2 p.m.
Nice.
And that's it. That's what I got.
All right.
And story time will continue.
And story time will continue. Miss Denise is going to take back over story time. We're going to do some fun things for that. That would be really good. So, yeah, come on down and see us.
Wonderful.
And that's it.
All right.
All right.
And I brought the beverage today.
Oh, good
In an
for you.
everlasting search for cream soda. I brought Dirty Mountain Dew.
Oh, man.
Dirty Mountain Dew.
That's what it says. Dirty Mountain Dew Cream Soda Dew.
I'm scared.
Now, it is 0 sugar, so we're going to, and I don't drink like sugared pop, so I accidentally got this one. We have tried lots of cream sodas.
The cream of the crop.
This one isn't going to be that good.
Whoa, that's your feeling?
That's my feeling.
Oh.
However,
It's dirty,
it smells okay.
creamy,
Well,
dirty
it
Dew.
can't be worse than what we had last time.
No.
It tasted like dirt.
Yeah, canned pea juice.
Right. I did not get to
Little bit of
taste that,
dirt.
darn it.
Yeah, just shoot. How could you have missed
Shoot.
it?
That's sad.
We were straight up not having a good time then.
That's yeah. Okay. Here's,
Okay.
everybody gets a little
One
bit of Dirty
for
Mountain
you.
Dew.
Oh,
One
it's
for me.
it's not a Mountain Dew yellow. It's kind of a
Oh,
A different
yeah.
different color. If you were the
It
abominable
smells
snowman
cream.
in the snow,
yeah, it's
Okay.
oh, that's pleasant.
It isn't as bad as I thought it would be.
it's like a creamsicle.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's like an
yeah.
orange creamsicle.
It is like an orange creamsicle.
I really like it. If I just close my eyes and I just pretend it's not this yellow color,
Yeah. Well, Mountain Dew has always been that yellow kind of.
it has.
Yeah, it's always kind of yellowy green.
Oh,
But-
I feel like I remember it being bright green, but maybe I'm just remembering the bottle. You know?
What color was Surge? Remember Surge?
No.
Oh.
I do remember, but I don't remember the color.
No, I remember the commercials more than I remember ever drinking the actual soda.
Actually, I'm pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, it does taste like cream soda, and then there's an aftertaste, but that could be the 0 sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not overwhelmingly sweet, which I would expect of a Mountain Dew, even if it's the sugar-free Mountain Dew. And that's kind of interesting to me.
It's got an aftertaste.
Yeah, if you're not used to drinking diet.
Yeah.
What's the sweetener we're dealing with here?
Let's see.
Is that a stevia? Is that a sucralose, aspartame?
I'm looking.
Yeah.
It's sucralose.
Sucralose. Oh, okay. It has like a bitterness off the back end that made me think it might be stevia, even though it's not normally, because stevia has a kind of a gum sweetener thing to it. So I'm a little surprised it's sucralose, but I think it's just the acidity kind of fighting the milkiness in a certain way that does give it a kind of a drier
I wonder,
tail end.
and probably if it's not the 0 sugar, it might be different.
Yeah.
It might taste really good.
It might.
I did not, but if you look at the bottle, you can see that the 0 sugar is in teeny tiny little letters, which is why I didn't see it.
Oh, yeah.
And sucralose should, in theory, not taste different from your regular sugars.
Right, in
really.
theory.
In theory. But
anyway.
in practice, it very well might.
Well, it was a good cream soda.
It was good.
We just judged the aftertaste.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yep. I'm struggling with the aftertaste.
Let it warm up a little bit.
Ew.
It might have helped if there was ice. Ice is always helpful.
Yeah, creamy, dirty Dew.
Yeah.
Dirty Dew.
I should hit you up for a tagline. You know, like the Real Housewives, you know?
The Real Housewives.
The tagline, you know, have you ever watched it? And they have like
no.
their taglines. They're
No.
like, oh, you know, don't call me blah, 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 because I'm blah. You know what I mean? Just like that very sassy, like intro.
Like a
you know?
yeah, like a catchphrase. Like,
Yeah, like a catchphrase.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I might need a catchphrase.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Don't mess with me, I'm menopausal.
Yeah.
See?
I know, hot flashes.
we
Take
go.
you down.
Well, I think we found our episode title. I should work on it. I don't think I have a catchphrase. I think my catchphrase is just like talking and run on circumstantial sentences, as I've learned from editing myself for years. I should be punchier. I should have a catchphrase.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what mine
we'll
would
have
be.
to think about that.
Who knows? I'll come up with something.
We're open to suggestions.
Yes.
Yeah. Send in your suggestions to
For our-
harrison.baker at thecityoftoledo.org
Yeah.
for our catchphrase.
Yes.
Nah, help.
Exactly. Okay.
All right.
We're here to talk about Autism Acceptance Month. And I think we're going to share some personal stories of kind of like what we've gone through with like our own families. And go from there.
Yeah.
So,
I'm willing to start. I've been around the longest, so I think that I've seen the services change dramatically in the last 35 years. So personal history: I have a son with autism. He was diagnosed when he was 3 in 1993, and at the time, you went in for a diagnosis at a developmental center. So they would do a battery of tests with your kiddo, and then they would diagnose. And that day is like, you know, those, you get a core memory where you can taste and feel and all of those things. That day is one of those core memories for me, where I remember sitting in a room with a whole lot of specialists and a very kind lady next to me, who said, well, we really feel like after looking at the tests, and this was 2, probably 4 or 5 hour days in a row of testing. She just said, we really think that your son has autism. And the only picture I had of autism, and you got to remember, I was like 26 or 27 when he was diagnosed. No, I would have been 30. The picture I had was the picture I'd seen in my textbook in my psych class in college, and it was a child on the floor banging their head on the floor. That's the only touchstone I had for autism. I had no idea what it was. And so, of course, I'm looking at my kiddo who doesn't do that. You know, he lines up cars and he doesn't talk a whole lot, and he, you know, kind of prevaricates over things. There was stuff going on with him, but none of it was like that. And I was just baffled by that diagnosis. And so we spent a lot of time researching, and within maybe a couple weeks after his diagnosis, they put him right into preschool. And back in the day, and this is 1993, so Harrison and Sophia have not been alive that long, or barely alive that long.
What was the year?
93.
93. I was
alive.
around.
But not really into the whole, you know, adulthood thing. Back in that time, autism was classified as a kind of a schizophrenia. It was a mental health issue, and horrifically, it was not covered by insurance. Wow. So things have really, really changed. But we had lived in the town of Missoula, Montana at that time. It's home of the University of Montana. And the University of Montana is one of the top early childhood development education schools in the nation. And they had just started something called a lab preschool. And lab preschools were made so that they would bring in kids from the community, and they would actually like integrate kids. So there was usually a 50-50 ratio, 50% kids identified with some kind of disability and 50% kids typical. And that was the model. So they were putting kids, this was early on before inclusion really became a thing. They were putting kids in the same class with each other. They were including everyone. And so Andrew went right away into the lab preschool, and we were just really blessed to be in a place where we had top-notch teachers. And we had one young man who was he was a student, and he was his lab teacher, and he taught Andrew to write his name. And he told me, he said at the beginning, and this was during the summer, during his internship, he said to me, I'm going to teach Andrew how to write his name before the end of the summer. Wow. That's my goal. And he taught him how to write his name. And he, there's just this, we were in such a good spot at the right time. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my history of, and as time went on, and you guys can talk to the more recent things that are happening in this field. But as time went on, inclusion became more important. But then there were also options for kids who don't fit into, who cannot be successful in a regular classroom. And those are important things too. It's important that we give kids the opportunity to be successful wherever that is. We're not excluding them, like putting them in a different building or putting them in a different place, but we're including them in what they can be included in and be successful, and also giving them a challenge to learn how to kind of function in that setting. So to go back a little bit in history, when our son was diagnosed, the prevalence rate of autism was 1 in 1,000. Mm-hmm. And the current thinking in 2000, so in 1993 it was 1 in 1,000. In the year 2000 it was 1 in 150. Mm-hmm. And that's from the CDC website. And in 2022, it was 1 in 31. Mm-hmm. And that's a tremendous growth. That's like 800% or something that we're identifying. Now, there are lots of reasons for that. We can discuss those. We might not have time for that, but diagnosis has something to do with it. Mm-hmm. Changing it from a singular autism to a spectrum disorder has something to do with it.
Yeah, changing those diagnostic criteria is like, mm-hmm. my understanding is it tracks pretty clearly 1-to-1. Mm-hmm. That if you didn't know that the diagnostic criteria changed, you're like, for some reason a bunch more people are there. It's just that more people are getting included in that
diagnosis.
Class.
Yeah. And that's good because we're identifying, as a spectrum disorder, it can be you can be very functional and no one will ever know, and you may never know, or you can be, have really severe struggles. Mm-hmm. So that's why they call it a spectrum. Mm-hmm. But the early days of autism, I'm just going to go back just really fast. So the first word, the time that autism was introduced was in 1911 by a psychiatrist. He used the term to describe symptoms of schizophrenia. So you can see where it kind of grew from there. So because kids are there's the referring to withdrawing from society. Oh. So it was withdrawal from reality into an inner world of fantasy. Now that isn't necessarily true. For sometimes it is, but we all kind of do that. When we're daydreaming, but he was seeing it as this withdrawal from society, no desire to have a social life, or having a very limited social interactions, or unable to have good social or understanding social cues. That he saw that back in 1911 as a symptom of schizophrenia.
Yeah, there are some educational films you can find from the 50s mm-hmm. dealing with autism as they understood it then, and it can be a tough watch because you're watching them describe, and they're showing kids with autism usually more noticeable symptoms than what you would mm-hmm. need to get diagnosed now, right. But they're attributing motivation to what these kids they're looking at are doing, and they're basically saying, the kid's doing this to push people away,
right?
Which is like, no.
We know different now.
Everyone's going to have a hard time if you're interpreting every behavior as like an attempt to be alone and push people away, because very often that's not what's actually happening.
No.
Yeah.
So in 1943, Dr. Leo Kanner is an Austrian-American psychiatrist. He had done a study called Autistic Disturbances of Affective Contact. And he described 11 children who displayed a unique set of behaviors, including a profound lack of effective contact with other people, an obsessive desire for sameness, and a fascinating dexterity in manipulating objects. And this is at the very beginning of when people were saying this is autism, because now that's like the core tenet of what autism back then was called, is this not wanting to be in contact or not creating eye contact. That's always kind of that was our first indicator. Not wanting to have conversations, or not the ability to not have a conversation in the typical way you would have a conversation. And so then we come to pediatrician Hans Asperger was observing similar behaviors in children, and he did in 1944 autistic psychopathy in childhood, described children with normal intelligence and language development, but who also showed autistic-like behaviors and marked deficiencies in social and communication skills. Little did Asperger know that his observations would later lead to a recognition of Asperger's syndrome as a distinct diagnosis. And that's something that we can talk about as we get to like the newer kinds of information. But I do want to talk about Asperger's because I looked it up. So there's rumors flying around that Dr. Asperger's was involved, allegations involved in the Am Spiegelgrund Children's Clinic in Vienna during the Nazi period. The clinic was responsible for murdering hundreds of disabled children deemed to be unworthy of life as part of the Third Reich's child euthanasia programs. Now, there is more information because I think there's always, and according to the where I got this, which is Wikipedia, according to his history. However, subsequent peer-reviewed studies have concluded that although it is not possible to determine with certainty what Asperger's knew about the infant euthanasia program, he was not directly involved in it, did not violate professional medical ethics, and the fatal decisions that led to the deaths of some of his patients were made by other physicians. In addition, historical records indicate that Asperger's did not report any children to the Berlin health authorities, despite being legally obligated to do so. So, while we can't prove it definitively that he was not involved, there is evidence that he was not against it, like he didn't step out of his comfort zone and say, stop doing that, but that he did not promote it.
He was working within the system he was in at the time, and that system was Nazi Germany.
Yeah. So,
yes, there's, and my understanding is that is a reason why, people aren't unreservedly eager to have his name attached to their condition, right. And it's gotten what used to be called Asperger's syndrome got folded into one end of the ASD diagnosis. Right. Because I went down that Wikipedia thing and it's like he definitely was involved with the Nazi party, and it is complicated, but yes.
Well, and I think
he was,
I think that having that diagnosis kind of die off, that Asperger's, because we did fold it into the spectrum. So there was always this autism, like half an umbrella, and then there was Asperger's was the other half of the umbrella. Mm-hmm. And so once we made it into ASD, it's it's all the same thing now. It's just this spectrum. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another thing too that would be that is worth mentioning, because I think this is what I knew about autism when Andrew was first diagnosed, is I knew that they had blamed it on what they called refrigerator mothers. And the refrigerator mother theory is where we can thank Bruno Bettelheim for that in the 1950s, which it is completely debunked, by the way. I'm not a refrigerator mother, but it was suggested that autism was caused by cold, uncaring, and unloving mothers.
Oh.
And I've heard this kind of retroactively addressed, or that I've heard the argument that when Bettelheim made that claim, or not that claim, but the observation that he initially was not proposing that parenting was the cause, but rather that autism was heritable, and that some of the traits that they were observing in autistic children also were present in parents. I don't know. I have not read all the primary sources on this, nor have I about Hans Asperger's involvement with the Nazi Party. So I'm not trying to speak with authority on this, but just that I've heard that that may have been what he was getting at. It may be him trying to kind of see his A afterward and say, that's not what I meant when it became clear. But I don't know, because we do know that it does appear to be partly heritable. It does run in families. I know it runs in families, but like, I can see how that could be true. I don't know that it is, that was the original intent of that observation of parents having similar, but I don't know. It does also seem like the kind of accusation that would be just leveled at a mother at that time. So
because I can attest to the fact that I held my child. I did all the things that I did with my other two kids. He just, at that time, he has autism. And so then in 1960, Bernard Rimland, who is a psychologist and a parent of a child with autism, he published a book called Infantile Autism, the Syndrome and Its Implications for a Neural Theory of Behavior. And this was a game changer for diagnosis, for the theories, and proposing biological causes for autism. And then he's also founded the Autism Society of America, and it was the first advocacy organization in the United States. It's still around. But do your due diligence when you look for a support group or for a system. Make sure that if you're giving money, that it's going to the places and people that it needs to go to, and that's just a generic learn your lesson kind of thing. Make sure that you're doing due diligence. And then in 1980s, we encounter another significant milestone. A British psychiatrist, Lorna Wing, introduced the concept of autism spectrum in 1981. And this is where you begin to see how people started to look at autism a little bit different. When Andrew was diagnosed in 93, we were told, and I believe this to be true, that he had a neurological behavioral disorder, that it wasn't schizophrenia, it wasn't mental illness, it was its own thing. His brain thinks, acts, and responds differently than other people's brains. Does that make it right or wrong? No, it makes it unique. And each person with autism on the spectrum has a very unique brain, just like we all do. And so there's always that saying, if you've met a person with autism, you've met one person with autism. Because my son is very different from anybody else's kid with autism.
The way I've come to kind of think of it, knowing that there are different criteria, there are different traits, like a spectrum of traits that if you have enough of a certain number of them, it basically qualifies for diagnosis. So I kind of think of it like I'm looking at the mixer right now for our podcast, and it's got a bunch of faders on it. We can slide up and down. And if we say slide a bunch of them up top, it might clip the meters, right? But you could do that with any number of faders. If we say that clipping the meter means you're diagnosed with autism, like you could turn up channels 1 through 4 all the way and get diagnosed that way. You could also turn up some other inputs all the way and get diagnosed.
Yeah.
And that's going to be 2 autism diagnoses based on the spectrum of traits, but they're going to be totally different traits.
Right.
Some folks are hyper social and talk all the time about something. Some folks don't really want to talk a lot.
Right.
And so it can get interesting that way. And then, of course, if you decide, well, maybe clipping the meter is not the diagnosis for autism. Maybe if we're down at like -6 decibels and anyone who's up louder than that, well, then you're going to have a bunch more people who are on the autism spectrum, because we're all maxing out our faders somewhere on our the mixers of our brains. Yeah. And that's probably not helpful to folks who don't like playing with outboard audio equipment, but maybe that's helpful to somebody.
Well, and it makes sense because autism, everybody looks different, everybody acts different, everybody has their own needs, their own desires, their own interests. My son was really interested in the presidents, and he memorized all the presidents. And to this day, if you say, which was this, 35th president, he will tell you. He knows them all, and his favorite is Abraham Lincoln, who freed the slaves. He knows a fact about everyone. And so, his memory is incredible. And I remember when he was, first diagnosed, and autism also brought this misunderstanding that if you had autism, you had some savant kind of thing, that you would be really, really good at one thing. And there was a lot of that. And there are autistic prodigies that play the piano or draw beautifully or whatever. They have this interest and they're really good at it. And that's great. I always say that Andrew's great ability that he's a master of is being Andrew. He's just really good at being himself. And he is a person who likes pop culture. He is a person who loves to watch Looney Tunes. He can be snarky as anybody else, and I just want people, I guess my takeaway from this is I really want people to understand that he's just a person. And if you want to talk to him, you kind of have to talk his language. So he's really into pop culture. And sometimes his conversations will be, he'll say, Bruce Wayne. And you're supposed to respond, Batman. And then, or Clark Kent, Superman. It's a question answer. It's very fact-based. He's not very abstract. He likes to read nonfiction. He likes to read comic books. He loves a good superhero, but he does not have a special, incredible interest or talent, except I will tell you one talent he does have, and then I will quit because this is just weird. So we have 4 children. Our daughter has been pregnant 5 times. Okay. She has 5 kids. Andrew predicted every time she was pregnant, she had never told anybody. Andrew would go up to her and say, "What's in your tummy?" And she'd be like, "No," because he knew every single time. Wow. And then one time, I can't remember which kid it was for, he went up to her and said, "What's in your tummy?" And she's like, "Nothing, I'm not pregnant." And she didn't know she was pregnant. And then she found out. So it's this I don't know if it's a pheromone smell, or I don't know what it is, or if her body shifts and he notices that detail, but he knew every single time. He just couldn't predict what they were, but he knew she was pregnant.
Wow.
Before a lot of us did. So it's very cool that he could, I don't know, that's just weird history, but.
And a lot of, a lot of folks with autism, a lot of how it shows up is oftentimes just not paying attention to the same thing everyone else is.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means noticing things that other people aren't noticing in somebody's demeanor or the state of another person, that you're not necessarily preoccupied with the same things everyone else is. And that's comes with costs and benefits.
It does, because it can be distracting, and it can, for a long time, Andrew was really into cars, like Matchbox cars, and tearing him away from his Matchbox cars to do anything else was like a nightmare. And so there are things that we do as parents to prep for that, and our lives. People say, "Well, your life is so difficult because you have to make sure that." And I'm like, "No, this is just the way I've lived my life since he was 3 years old." Yeah. We prep for stuff. If we're going somewhere, we're telling him we're going at this time, this place. If we say we're going to do something, we better do it, because if we don't, we're going to hear about it. Mm-hmm. So a lot of my life is saying, "Well, maybe that will happen." Or maybe we can do that because I don't want to commit. Yeah. But, I think unconsciously as a parent, when you've been doing it for most of this kid's life, you just do those things without thinking about them. They're just your normal. Mm-hmm. And every parent's like that. You just have the way you deal with your kids. It becomes your normal. And I'm really proud of my kid. He's living his best life. He's been through a lot. He's the bravest kid I know. So. Anyway, I'm done. So moving it from the past and I kind of segueing into the future and what's happening now in autism stuff.
Do you want to go or do you want me to?
Well, I'll just say I feel like there is more acceptance, and my one concern is that sometimes that acceptance can be a little bit flattening. It can be a little bit reductive in other ways, like when depictions or stereotypes of people with autism, even like the ones that are positive, can be a little condescending. Like now I feel like there can be stereotypical depictions of autistic people in fiction where it's like, look what a quirky, funny little guy this person is. Or like presenting autistic people, autistic adults as like childlike in some way.
Oh, right.
I see a lot of that. Yeah, it's complicated. I feel like we're not to the point in like popular culture where we're seeing a lot of like autistic characters in fiction who are just people, right? Who are just where, and that, I mean, that's true of so many, so many demographics in our society, not just autistic people. It's always been an issue, but you gotta take a little bit of other representation, like as we come around to broadening things. At least it's a new kind of depiction, maybe, but it's not all. We're not there.
I look back like on on popular TV shows back in the 90s, and I think there's a couple out there like maybe MacGyver and maybe a couple other like crime shows where the child who witnesses something is autistic. And it's like this, there's one kind of autism, just one kind, and they don't talk. And then they have to get them to talk, or get them to describe. And I know that, these may be unpopular opinions, but I think I've earned the right to have an unpopular opinion. And I happen to agree. I agree, though, with you, Harrison, that sometimes these should just be people. And maybe it is the quirky friend who knows every statistic about every president that ever has served, but it doesn't need to be highlighted as, oh, this is my friend. He has autism. This is my friend. He's a cool guy who happens to know all these facts about things. And then let the reader draw their own conclusions, instead of labeling somebody right away as okay, this is going to sound terrible, and I don't want it to. I don't. But it's like the quirky sidekick,
right?
It's like here's the hero of the story, and here's his quirky sidekick, who's like a little computer friend, who comes up with all the information and is super smart. But why not just have the friend?
And
so that's kind of my take on it sometimes.
And it's not unique to autistic representation.
Oh no.
This is the struggle of every kind of when someone has been underrepresented in media. It's like every representation then kind of has that extra weight of being like, this is gonna inform people's whole idea of what somebody is. And it's a lot to wrestle with. I'm not qualified to go speak at length about it probably. I mean, but yeah, that's been hard for me of like it's like, these folks just don't get what's going on. It's like the guy, everything goes over his head. And it's like, no, that's not what happens. It's not just like, oh, this is somebody who doesn't get social cues. Like, I feel like that's the kind of the reductive thing that gets kind of put across sometimes, that it's like, it's not that simple.
Yeah.
Oh, it's never that simple.
No.
Or uncomplicated. Because like when you miss, if there is something that you miss or you read a different way, like, no, it's painful for realizing that happened.
Right.
Like, and I don't see that so much. I don't know. I underprepared for this conversation. I feel like I'm going to pass to Sophia at this point and maybe circle back.
I was just going to very quickly share, maybe not like a ton of detail, but so my son has autism. He was diagnosed when he was 6. But it was a struggle. It was so hard for me, and I feel like I had to fight so hard. He started showing signs of like differences before he was even a year old. I could tell something was up, and I was trying really hard to like talk with he had a wonderful doctor, and she was getting us help, and then she passed away, and then we I don't know. I felt like, and I was just trying really, really hard to get someone to listen and take me seriously, and like what's happening. And I feel like it just got like brushed off, and like, he's just got some developmental delays. He's just got some motor delays, and like, we'll just like address the delays. We'll just, try and get him caught up and go from there. And then I feel like even when we did go to appointments, they'd be like, oh, like, we're not thinking autism, and I'd be like, okay, I didn't know at that point. So I don't know. I never thought that this was the thing that was happening. I just thought that my feeling was like, there's got to be something like driving this. Like, is there something bigger that's like going unnoticed that is driving all this? Does that make sense? It's like something's like, what's causing this? What's happening? And so I was just like so frustrated. So it took a long time. Dominic went to like preschool, like a Head Start preschool and they helped him a lot. And he got like, speech therapy, occupational therapy. So we were doing that, like speech, occupational therapy, for a while, and then he went to kindergarten, and I remember he talking to them because he was like continuing his IEP from preschool to kindergarten, and then he was evaluated, and they found that he had autism through his school district. Right. So he was diagnosed through his school. So it's different than like a medical diagnosis, but it allowed him to get help at school. Right. And then thankfully we were on a wait list, and we got diagnosed. We had to go to a specialist. It was a developmental pediatrician and a clinical psychologist, a team who diagnosed him when he was 6. And they said he has level 2 autism. And that he'll need some help, basically. And so that just confirmed what we already knew. But I think that allowed us to get, like, unlock doors to get help. So Dom got a lot of help in speech therapy and occupational therapy. And then very thankfully, when he was in elementary school, we had a wonderful, wonderful special education team who worked so hard with him on like social emotional learning. And he really worked really hard. I'm so proud of him. He got caught up, and now he's in middle school, and he's working hard, and he plays the euphonium, and I'm just so proud of him. I think it's just a thing that is in our family. It's not any, it's just a thing that is. And, Dom needs some help sometimes, but it's just, I don't know. It's just a thing that is very neutral. And so he's worked really hard and we're just trying to make sure that he gets all the help that he needs to be as successful as he can be in his life. But man, I had to fight so hard to be taken seriously for him to get what he needed. Oh my gosh. And so, but now we're on the other side of it. And I feel like he's got a great care team of doctors. Not that the doctors before didn't care, but I think it was just like getting someone to listen. Gosh. Yeah. So anyway, so we're on the other side of that. Thank goodness. And now here we are.
And it it's notoriously difficult to get a diagnosis in a lot of ways, medically, because there's very few developmental pediatricians around. And now they're looking at neurological pediatricians too. There's like one, imagine it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then schools are hesitant, I think, to label kids before they're 16 or before they're 6, not 16. They can give like an unlabeled diagnosis. Yes, he needs help. And that usually has happened in preschool and then up until kindergarten. But then they can start to do that diagnostic kinds of things. But even to get your child evaluated at school is another it's just a battle. It's just an uphill battle, and it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be, but it was.
It shouldn't be that way.
And we were on a wait list for like a long time, because there's that shortage. So
and then meanwhile, your kid is not getting the help they need, so they're falling further and further behind.
Yeah, I was like,
they're having more and more behavioral stuff going on, and it's kind of this. I don't know the answers. It's complex and it depends on parenting, and it depends on parenting style, and it depends on the kid, and it depends on the schools, and
yeah, it was hard.
It's a tough one.
Tough road, but
and he, I love hearing stories like that he got the help he needed. Early intervention is vital.
Yes.
And having somebody step in when they're 6 or 3 or whatever and say, nope, we're going to work on this, and here's where we're going to be. I have this vision. I know what you can do. And giving that goal and something for kids to, work towards. I mean, it's just a great thing to see that there are many, 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 many success stories that you see the school doing what it should do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that can be hard.
And maybe I should circle back to the personal part for me, because I realized I was thinking about broader kind of representation, but I think it does give context to, having been through the process of at the same age, having a child get formally diagnosed. And in the process of doing that and listening to the list of traits, realizing a lot about myself too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Not being diagnosed myself. And I think part of it was just seeing that difference, and the fact that I grew up, I was a kid at that time where it was like autism was this specific, that what was diagnosed as was this specific thing that it wouldn't have occurred to me could apply to me or, this, because it meant this one thing. And if a guy when I was a kid who was like me was just like kind of an odd guy, like that's kind of how there was no diagnosis, right? It didn't fall into a diagnostic umbrella. So, I'm not diagnosed, but y'all hear me talk. You know what I sound like how I am, and so it's just interesting seeing those differences. And there is a part of me, I guess, that also recognizing how different every person's experience is, and that these diagnostic criteria have been created and they have utility because they do get people to supports they need or to some understanding of ourselves. But at the same time, anytime you're applying a one term for such a broad thing, it can feel kind of, it can feel reductive too in a way. And like, you can't find community otherwise, right?
Yeah.
If you're not identified a certain way, you can't find community with people like yourself. But also, anytime something has a label, it changes your relationship to the world in a way. And it's interesting for me, you know, in a household where it's like, here we have diagnosis in an environment where it is more accepted and understood, which is great. But I don't know where that leaves me in a way. And like, I also don't want to like lean too hard into it, like, because I feel like there isn't a one word explanation for everything that makes us different too. And I feel like that understanding has gotten more too, just in understanding that it's a whole complex of traits,
right?
And that that diagnosis recognizes that uniqueness more than it used to is good,
right?
Is what I'm getting to. But what bugs me sometimes about the depictions is that the internality of the autistic experience is not always shown the way it should be.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of it is just like, look at this,
right?
Look at how, like, you know, love on the spectrum and stuff. Look at how quirky these people are following love. Look how they're acting. Look how they're interpreting things. And it's like, the way the way I am, the way my brain works, I'll forget somebody's, like, you know, birthday or what they told me the day before, and it's like my brain will hold on to anything that I read, but I'll just like, I'll zone out and just not retain something when it pertains to people who I care about. And it's not that I don't care, but it's just for whatever reason, sometimes that doesn't stick in my head. And I don't like that. It's not quirky or like, it sucks.
Yeah.
It's not good that I do that. I feel bad about like,
right.
And so it's like, I've got to do things like, you know, making sure I put a calendar reminder,
right.
And to do certain things or to remember certain things that I kind of wish my brain did a better job of doing, but it's hard. I don't know how you communicate or depict that kind of thing where it's like how do you show the internality of the autistic experience more? I guess I'd like to see that depicted in not not just a funny way or like a strictly positive way even, but just it takes a lot out of you when you're when you're operating on a different wavelength from a lot of the people in your environment. Yeah. And you won't always respond the best way, the way that you would want to that experience either.
Yeah.
So
I think I'm
going to stop talking.
No. I think that visually, like on movies or in that kind of media, you don't see the internal struggle, but there are some authors that are writing now that are on the spectrum. And I think that that's a good practice. If you're, if you want to understand, then go to the source.
Yeah.
You can talk to me and I can tell you about being a parent.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you about being on the spectrum.
No.
And my son in particular would look at you and go, what? What spectrum? I mean, he has no clue. He is just who he is.
Yeah.
And we never said to him, you are autistic. We never said that because he wouldn't. Why would we do that? Why would we label him that to himself? He wouldn't understand it. It wouldn't have been valuable for him. For some people, I think it is. For people who are able to articulate a little better what they feel, it might be important for people to understand this is who I am. This is the label that they put on me. But I think in terms of, go to the source of, there's lots of authors and I can curate a list. I mean, they're just that they're out there and they're writing about their experiences, and they're funny and entertaining and joyful, and they view the world differently.
Dr. Grandin is amazing.
Yes, Temple Grandin is
yeah.
she's a total like heroine of the autism movement. I mean, because she was able to articulate, this is how I feel and this is what I am.
Yeah.
And everybody appreciated that, knowing that that's how the world works. And it's interesting because, and this is just a side note, because you talked about how you talk and how Harrison talks. And it reminds me, because so much of the way that you explain things is visually. So you explain something that someone can visualize. It's
great for a podcast, isn't it?
Right. Goes really well. But just like the thing with the soundboard, that totally explains it. It's a visual representation. Well, that's how my son thinks in visual representations. And so that was so hard. Once we figured that out, it was like, wow, now I get it, And I think that's kind of one of those things that sometimes occurs in the spectrum, is that you think visually, you think in pictures. And Temple Grandin, she talked a lot about that, about thinking in pictures.
There's another podcast that's worth listening to called The Loudest Girl in the World. And it's by a journalist who got diagnosed ASD as an adult. And is kind of unpacking, not having a name for what she was going through. And it's very much manifests in a way that's not the like old fashioned stereotypical depiction of someone with autism. But she describes this thing that she came across as a symptom that had not been laid out for her before, which was there was somebody else in her extended, like in her sphere, who said, I don't miss people when they're not around. And that it's not because I don't care, but my brain doesn't do that. And I was listening to this podcast and realized, oh, I do that. And I hadn't thought about it. Like the fact that there are people who I care a lot about, people who I consider like my best friends and who I think about all the time, but I haven't probably spoken to in like 10 years because it just doesn't occur to me like call somebody and have a conversation. I don't have anything to report. We had a great conversation before I left town.
Right.
And it's fine in my brain, but I don't keep in touch with people like without reminding myself to do it. And like there is some comfort in knowing, okay, no, there's a term for, potentially having your brain just operate that way. And it's a normal variation of things. And there are things you can do to do that more or to set up for yourself so that you can do a better job of doing this thing if you want to. But, having a term that applies to that is useful for not just feeling like I'm some kind of monster who doesn't who blows people off or doesn't do that. It's just, no, I don't think of it that way.
Yeah.
But I know I don't call people back a lot if I'm not in constant contact with them, which this will be a test. You'll be hearing from me. I'm not going to disappear.
Okay.
You have my number.
I'm going to text you.
Text me, please.
Gifts and memes.
If you don't hear from me,
I'll just text you.
Just text me. So I don't know. I don't know if that makes any kind of sense what I just said.
It makes sense to me.
Yeah, and I think just that what every person needs, and I'm going to speak in terms of every person needs understanding and support. There's always times in our life when people don't understand us. We can't articulate what we're thinking. or we can't make people understand what we're thinking. And that doesn't mean, it just means we can't do it at that moment in time. And I think that with, there's a lot of advocacy, there's a lot of research, there's a lot of stuff that's going on, that is good, and we're moving forward. But just, everybody needs someone to understand you, someone to support you.
Yeah.
And no questions asked.
Yeah.
Just understanding and support.
Yeah.
For the future of autism, I don't know what's going to happen. I think that again, I've earned the right to say these things. Just, I just think autism's kind of like the X-Men and the mutants. It's just like a mutant strain of humanity that's kind of going off on its own. But it's just humanity. It's just the way we are, So, I'm just saying that there are times when I look at my son and I think, I don't understand you at all. And then there's times when I totally get it. But it's just, that's who he is.
Yeah.
That's who I am. He doesn't understand me a lot, too.
That makes sense.
But, don't call them mutants because that's not nice.
You heard it from Cindy.
Unless they want you to call them a mutant.
Autism
And then you're welcome to. But I'm just saying, there are times when I look at my child and go, what planet did you come from? But then again, all of my children, I've looked at them and said that.
I can't believe you've done this.
I do want to circle back.
Yes.
I feel bad because I was like, my son's autism is a thing that is. And I meant it as like, it's just like, it's so normal in our household. Does that make sense? It's just like, he's so accepted and so loved, and that's Dom. And we love him. And I would fight tooth and nail to make sure he got every friggin' resource he needed to be successful in life. And so it's a thing that is because we accept him and love him for who he is, like unconditionally. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
I don't want it to sound like bad. Like, I was like, oh no, I could come across wrong.
That's how I think too. This is the way our life is, and I don't view it as heroic or special, or I don't see Andrew as a burden or something I had to overcome.
Yeah,
I don't view it that way. Yeah. He's my child. He's, like you said, he's well loved and cared for, and he's funny and quirky, and I love the dickens out of the kid, and he frustrates me just like every other child in my life. Yeah. So there's something very, very, if you want to use the term normal, which I hate to use because there is no normal in this world. We're all so different. But our family is just normal. It's just our version of normal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And
I get it.
That's kind of how it should be. It should just be viewed as something that, you're an interesting person and I like you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. I'm going to throw out a T-Rex for good measure.
Yes, do it.
One more T-Rex.
So satisfying.
And on that note, and of that roar, probably should wrap this sucker up.
We bid you adieu.
Adieu.
And we'll be in touch.
Yes.
The Free Bin is a production of the Toledo Public Library, which is part of the Lincoln County Library District in beautiful Lincoln County, Oregon. Writing by Cindy Bilek, Sophia Kahn, and Harrison Baker. Original music by Harrison Baker. Editing by Harrison Baker and Sophia Kahn. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect those of any organization they represent. Good night.